What's up, it's Cinema Shogun here, and a lot of you all have reached out to me wanting me to cover this story about a 14-year-old boy who tragically fell to his death from a free fall ride at Icon Park in Orlando, Florida. And I'm not gonna lie, this was a story that I was well aware of, but it was one that I didn't even want to cover because this story just hit me like a ton of bricks. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Not only was it extremely scary, an extremely tragic situation, it's always more tragic when someone passes away or has a tragic accident while they're on vacation. You know, they're supposed to be having fun, the time of their life, and something like this happens. But also because this ride in particular has haunted my dreams for months on end now. I frequent Orlando pretty often. And about a month and a half ago, some of my friends were trying to get me to ride this exact ride. I have an issue with heights a little bit. Like sometimes even when I'm staying in hotels, I don't want to look over the edge. Once I get pretty high up, when I'm 3 or 4 stories up, I'm okay. But once I start getting higher up, my knees get weak. I have an issue with heights. So when I'm driving into Orlando, you can see this ride from miles away. You could see this ride. You could see a slingshot ride. It's kind of like a bungee cord. People bungee up and down. And you can see this tall, swing set. The swing rides at your theme parks or your carnivals, but it's like a super tall one. And you can see it from miles and miles away, like miles away. And looking at it as I'm driving, it always freaks me out in traffic. And it starts making my knees weak while I'm driving because I'm just like, how the hell would anyone want to go up there? But my friends tried to get me to ride the ride not too long ago, and of course I passed. And I literally had to beg one of my friends not to get on it. They did not get on it, thank God. But I had to beg and plead for them not to get on it. Now, this situation is extremely tragic, and there is a video out there. I'm not going to play the video. I would instruct you all. If you have not seen the video, please do not go and look it up. It is something that I saw against my will almost. I didn't know what I was looking at. I get online. I'm dealing with an injury of my own. So I've been out of the loop about some things going on. And the first thing I do is I get online. I see this video of this, ride that I've been scared of for so long. And I'm thinking it's maybe going to be a funny video of someone freaking out on the ride. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I can't get it out of my head now, the sound. Do not go watch this video. But I noticed a few red flags while looking into this story. For one, I'll let you all know right now. When it comes to these rides that aren't at a official amusement parks, I wouldn't ride them if I were you all. A lot of these rides are ran by teenagers that don't know any better. I'll get into the details of all of that. I'll give you some of my opinions and some of my personal experiences in a second. But first, I want to give you all a little bit of details about what's going on here, because we all know that this 14-year-old fell to his death. But before doing so, it appeared that people were questioning the seat restraints. Before a teen fell to his death on Thursday night, one person on the Orlando freefall ride at Icon Park appeared to question the seat restraints. Why doesn't this have a little click to it, like a seatbelt, the person said. As the ride lifted, a worker said, check your seatbelt on the left side, seatbelt, and the ride appears to have only an over-the-shoulder harness that locks riders into place as it descends 70 miles per hour. But on Thursday night, as it dropped from more than 400 feet, a rider came off the seat and fell to his death. Workers can be heard saying after the incident, "You sure you guys checked it? Are you sure you checked it?" Orange County Sheriff John Mina identified the victim as 14-year-old Tyree Sampson, who is visiting Central Florida from Missouri with a friend's family. John Stein, a spokesperson for the Slingshot Group, which owns the ride, said the ride, which opened about 3 months ago, is designed to only operate if riders are locked in. It's very difficult to say what could have gone wrong, he told CBS News. The way the ride is designed, with all the safety features and redundancy, there shouldn't be an issue. Slingshot Group said it is cooperating with authorities as they investigate. Icon Park said it's doing everything it can to assist. The Orlando Freefall is closed pending a full investigation. We are deeply saddened and sorry, Stein added. Sorry and being deeply saddened is not going to cut it. And why is it not going to cut it? It's because this isn't the first problem that happened at this Icon Park. Literally, 1 year ago to this date, it was, let me see. Like I said, I always got to make sure this information is 100% correct. I believe it was on March 26, 2021, the Slingshot ride actually snapped. And there were some teenagers on the ride at that time as well. Now, no one was hurt. No one was killed. Luckily, only one of the cables attached to this ride snapped. And they brought EMS and they brought the fire department and were able to rescue these people who almost lost their lives on this ride, which is literally right next to this big mega drop that this kid died on. The safety protocols here are bad, bogus, BS. I can tell you right now, when you go into Orlando, of course you have your big theme parks, like you're gonna have like your SeaWorld, your Disney World, and your Orlando Studios. But along the way, there's sometimes just tiny little I don't really want to call it a theme park, but there's little tiny like parking lots with rides. Icon Park being one of them, probably the biggest one, because they have a lot of these big rides and these big mega drops or what have you. But these places are often ran by teenagers who really don't care about anything that's going on and really have no business working on something this dangerous. Often they get distracted. They see a pretty girl, they're hollering at the girl, talking to the girl, and they don't go around to really check everyone properly. From looking at some of these photos that I saw before, and don't worry, I'm not going to show you all the video, but I do have to show you this photo right before this ride lifts. You can tell that this harness is not strapped in around this kid well enough. This harness definitely is not strapped around this kid well enough. And I think that it is blatantly obvious. And I honestly don't see how they allowed this ride to go on without, saying anything about it. But you could tell from this picture that he was not strapped in, or he was not, strapped in properly. But also, when I've looked into the ride, most of these free fall rides, you'll have this harness that comes over the top of you. And then you'll have a seat belt that's in like the crotch area that connects to that harness as well. This ride does not have that seat belt connector, which I am extremely curious as to why it doesn't. Most rides like this would have that connector. You have to understand that this ride at Icon Park, it's the tallest drop tower in the world. It brings you up 400 feet. It tilts you at a 30-degree angle to the point where you're facing the ground, and then it drops. So when it drops you, you're facing the ground, and it drops at 75 miles per hour. And all that's holding you in place is this harness. You don't even have the seatbelt that most rides like this require. So when I was looking into that, I just found it extremely odd that that seatbelt wasn't there. But also, all traces of the Orlando Freefall and the Orlando Slingshot have been removed from the Icon Park website. So basically, Icon Park is trying to scrub all signs that they even have these rides because they know how bad this looks on them. I know people have very short memory, but people I'm sure that live around the area or frequent Orlando probably already know about what happened with the Slingshot ride over a year ago. Most of the time, people riding these rides aren't locals. I'm not an Orlando local, but even I never ride rides that are at that are in random parking lots and random like fairs and stuff like that. I don't get on those rides. When I was younger, I used to love the thrill of getting on rides. But once I got to a certain age and I dealt with a lot of things in my life that made me value life and made me understand how fragile life was. And once I got to a certain age and realized life is dangerous enough that I don't really get a thrill out of strapping myself to a piece of metal and sending myself in the sky at 75 miles per hour and doing loop-de-loops and all what have you. Life is dangerous enough. I don't want to pay money to put my life at risk. So I don't really get on rides like that no more. Also, I do have to bring this fact up. I'm not sure if there was a weight or a height limit on this ride. I do know that I have heard that there was a height limit on this ride. I haven't heard anything about a weight limit. But I'm a bigger dude. And let's just call it what it is. These theme parks and these theme park rides, they're not fat friendly. They're not meant for people who are bigger in size, bigger than normal. You know what I mean? And sometimes that could be hard for bigger people to deal with. I was a fat kid growing up. I understand. So when I was growing up, sometimes there would be a ride and I would just accept that that's a ride that I'm not going to ride. Maybe my skinnier friends could ride it, but that's not a ride for me. And often, or sometimes at least, the people running those rides would let you know, maybe this isn't the ride for you. They'll let you know in a nice way. Nowadays, I'm not so sure if people will do that. I feel like people will be more reluctant to tell someone like, oh, maybe you're too tall or too big to ride this ride, because we live in a more sensitive time. And I get being sensitive to people for that, because it can be embarrassing as a big person when you're about to get on the ride and they're like, hey, you're too big for this ride. That's an embarrassing moment. But at the same time, if it could save your life, it's something that needs to be said. So that's another reason why I don't think teenagers should be in charge of these rides, because as a kid, you lack authority. And sometimes it takes authority to have the courage to tell someone that they can't ride a certain ride. And if you're a bigger person, you have to operate under that understanding that you're a bigger person and not everything's for you. And yeah, it can be embarrassing. Yeah, it sucks. Sometimes you feel kind of left out. You have to wait for your friend at the end of the ride. I get it. Maybe that could be something that encourages you to lose some weight. Maybe you have a goal that you set about yourself, so next time you go to a theme park, you meet the weight requirement for a ride or something of that nature. I don't have a problem getting on any rides that I like to ride, which are like the nice, cool, slow rides like around Disney, like Ghost, the Haunted Mansion and things like that. I have no issues with that, but I'm definitely not going to strap my big ass to a roller coaster and go riding around, because when you're this size, when you're a bigger guy, it's kind of scary riding these rides. You look around and you hear everyone else click, 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 click. And then you put your harness on and it goes like click, click. And you're kind of like holding your breath and you only got like 2 clicks. And the whole time you're riding, you're just like, man, I'm going to slip right out of my seat. Because as a fluffy guy, you're kind of more like, you're kind of easier to slip out of things because you're not as solid. You know what I'm saying? You're kind of fluffy. You're not as solid. So I say all this to say, not to be mean, but if you have a bigger child, a taller child, a bigger, heavier set child, then you have to be more careful with them when they ride these rides. And if you're someone who's bigger, you have to acknowledge that. You have to accept that as part of life. Maybe it's something you could change one day. Maybe it's something that won't change, and that's okay too. It is what it is. But I just feel like that's something important. That's why I really wanted to tackle this story, because I think it's something important to get across. Because us bigger people out here, we have to realize that there are limitations to some of the things we do. We can't go on all the rides that the skinny people ride on. And I believe this kid was maybe too big to be on this ride. He was a football player, heavier set kid, a tall kid as well. Looked like he would have made one hell of a linebacker. I'm sure he was great at football as well. And it's not his fault what happened. I don't want you all to think that I'm saying this is his fault. It's not his place to know. He's a 14-year-old kid. Someone working that ride should have obviously been able to see, okay, maybe this ride isn't for you. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, even if, some rides you strap in, you get a couple of clicks and you're just riding around in a circle slowly, it's nothing to worry about. This ride, they're sending you up 400 feet in the sky, tilting you to the ground, and then dropping you at 75 miles per hour. You need to be fully strapped in. If you don't click all the way, then you need to get off the ride. And someone that was running that ride should have said so. But like I said, often these rides, they're ran by teenagers. They don't do anything. They walk around in a circle and just tug on your little harness, and then they send you off blasting into the sky. They don't know any better. They don't know what the hell is going on. Half of them don't even know how they got the job in the first place. They don't have any safety experience or anything. They walk around, talk to people sometimes, and just pull on your little harness. They don't even check, really. I know that from personal experience, the last couple of times I rode more dangerous rides, I probably shouldn't have been in them. Luckily, I made it out okay, but I learned from those experiences. I'm not riding any of these rides again. And like I said, if you're a bigger person, that's something that you need to come to accept. And if you're a parent with kids, let them know, in a nice way. If you're a little bit bigger, maybe son, daughter, you don't need to go on this ride. save that for the other kids. You could do something else. You understand what I'm saying? But right here in this whole situation, it's a tragic situation. It's a sad situation. And I feel like someone needs to be held responsible here, especially because I know from firsthand experiences that there has been a lot of problems at this park. And I've seen these rides. I was standing right at the bottom of this ride just a couple of months ago. And I would never get on it. And I would suggest that no one ever gets on anything like this. If you're going to go on a ride, if you absolutely must have these type of thrills in your life, then go to a more legit amusement park. Don't go to one of these things that are on the side of the road, because that's all Icon Park is. It's literally a few rides that's inside of a parking lot next to a couple of restaurants, and it's really unprofessional. And it's so unprofessional. And the fact that this place was still up and running after what happened on the Slingshot a year ago, and that wasn't even the first issue they had there. Oh man, I'm going to have to look into this park a little bit more, because I'm sure there are other things as well. But I think someone should be held accountable here, because this kid's death, it's not his fault. I believe that they didn't put in the right protocols, the safety protocols, in order for people to make it out of there safely and to ride this ride safely. Like I stated, from the photo, you can tell that the harness wasn't pulled down all the way. Also, I don't understand why there is no seatbelt buckle on this ride. Maybe they just wanted to save money. Maybe it was a shortcut. I'm not sure. I will look into that more. But for now, I want to hear your thoughts about this. And like I said, a warning to everyone. Be careful on these rides, especially if you're a bigger person. Maybe it's just not for you. Maybe find something else to do, you know? I'm saying that from experience, but I want to know your thoughts down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and as always, find some time out of your day to go watch a movie.